Sale is made when certainty that your product or service will solve my problem. When the certainty goes way up here, you're going to make the sale. When the certainty drops, okay, which is, I don't know if I have a job. I don't know if I have money. I don't know if my company's going to make it. I don't know what's going to happen. I don't know if I'm going to get sick. There's so much uncertainty now that the consumer no longer believes in themselves or their company. So the salesperson or the company today has to ensure, not just reinsure, but ensure the certainty of the consumer. And you have to be skilled now. This isn't going to be just about creating a landing page and an offer, unless you're selling masks. We buy real estate that cash flows. So some of what people want to show me here, I'm like, is there any cash flow? I'm always buying cash flow. So I'm not buying possibility. I'm not buying, okay, we're going to speculate and make a bunch of money here. Does it cash flow next month? Because I want cash flow. Cash flow is the holy grail of a business. It's why people, the great real estate investors, or even the great stock investors or company investors, typically invest in cash flow companies. Warren Buffett is famous for everything cash flow.
I've noticed in the past also, you've talked a lot about discipline with money and how key this has been. I mean, can you talk to me more about that? Because obviously, what you've needed to pay to have success and financial freedom, because I guess everyone will see the wealth and the spending, but what price have you needed to pay?
Yeah, look, the price I had to pay was not to be broke and not to make excuses and not to feel sorry for myself and not to be a victim. The fact is, on this planet, if you don't have money, you're in trouble. Now, I know some of your audience, this message kind of just grinds out the individual because you're struggling with money. And you're like, oh, money's not all that. I'm not talking about watches and planes and big houses. I'm talking about having enough money that you have confidence in your ability to get up in the morning and say, hey, I can take care of the people I love. So I'm not talking about all the flaunting stuff, right? I'm talking about knowing within yourself, drop me off anywhere in the world. I just finished a project. It's going to be on TV in January. Discovery Channel says, hey, we're going to give you $100 and drop you off anywhere in the country. Can you turn it into $1 million? I said, where we going? Where we going, players? Where we going, man? As long as I can speak the language, I can do it. Okay. I have confidence in myself. And what is more valuable than confidence? There's no watch, no amount of money that is more valuable than knowing, hey, drop me off anywhere. I can take care of myself and my family. Take everything away from me. My name, my money, my brand, my credit. And leave me anywhere and I can take care of my family and actually build something that can take care of my family even if I'm not around.
Let's talk about when you started working for yourself, because most small businesses fail in the first few years, 1 to 3 years. That most don't make it.
I mean, there's a lot of different numbers out there about that. Like 50% of all businesses fail by 7 years. The truth is they were failing in the first 6 months.
Okay, what do you think they did wrong?
They don't know how to sell anything. I mean, you go to Harvard, Yale, or MIT, if you do studies, the reason they were undercapitalized. Okay, look, this is completely ridiculous what they're telling you. Okay, you don't capitalize a business and then run out of money. That's not how you do a business, right? This is how Wall Street does a business. They rip people off. They basically go. Most companies developed by Wall Street or in Silicon Valley are complete ripoffs of the investors. You hear about the Netflix that made it. It might not still make it. It's still a negative cash flow business because they don't know how to sell their products fast enough in quantities big enough and at prices high enough to basically fund the future. So businesses fail for one reason and one reason only, because you can't sell your products fast enough in quantities great enough and at prices high enough to sustain the business. Thus, Harvard says, they ran out of capital. Why? Because they didn't sell their products. So if you can sell products fast enough, quantities great enough, Google's a company you don't consider a sales company. Google sells products in quantities that are giant. It profits margins that are high enough.
When did you first start on like the foray of entrepreneurship? When did you stop working for somebody, moved onto your own thing? What was that? Was it real estate, that kind of?
No. So the car dealer that I worked for 7 years fired me. It was kind of a mutual firing thing. And I went out and looked for another job.
And I was either going to go sideways, meaning I was going to go horizontal in my job, or I was going to go up. And I had two choices. One was horizontal, just move to another position in another company, or kind of like what we're going through right now, pivot and move up. Rather than take a loss and go sideways or down, I decided to take a bigger challenge, something that was scarier, which was speaking, working for a training company. I was 29 years old, went to work for this training company. I did that for 2 years. And then when that expired, that came to an end because of the company. And I went and started my own company. So everything I had done prior to that point, the selling, the sales, the firings, the losing positions, drug addiction that I had for 9 years in my teenage years, to working for this company, exhausting myself, working for a company that really didn't have long-term plans, was all preparation. The good, the bad, and the ugly of it was preparation for me to start my own business when I was 31 years old.
Explain how you went from a salesman who was in it and hated it.
Yeah.
To then, you moved on and became self-employed, and then you were speaking about sales, and you're like a sales expert. So that's what, 20 years in between, or 10 years?
Yeah, no, there was maybe 25. By the time I'm 26, I'm the top 1% of all salespeople in the auto industry. I didn't really know what that meant, but it was important to me that I was very good at what I was doing now. Now I was in. I went from hating a job in car sales. I remember going out with this girl and she said, "What are you doing?" I said, "I'm a car salesman." And she got that look on her face like, "Oh my God, that's worse than a man."
Yeah.
I mean, and I had this terrible thing. I'm like, okay, I'm going to get great at it. I started studying sales every day. I started recording interviews. Like literally, you'd come in to buy a car from me, and I hired my mom. My mom was 70 years old at the time, and I hired my mom, and I said, "You sit over there and you take notes."
Really?
And watch her. Watch when I lose her. Watch what happens, and we're going to debrief at the end of the deal. And I'm going to see what's working and what's not. I'm recording myself, videoing myself. I'm using every little piece of technology 30 years ago I can to find out, what am I doing right? What am I doing wrong? And what I was doing, I didn't know it then, but I was basically codifying sales. I was learning, what does it mean when I say I'm going to think about it? When is that real? When is it not? What does it mean when it says the price is too high? When's that real? When it's not? And I started codifying and writing, taking notes, keeping all this information. I didn't know this would happen, but 5 years later, I'm out on the road, knocking on doors, selling a new way to sell things.